Hello, you're watching Anderson Community Television. I'm Kyle Densler, your host for this September edition of Anderson Speaks. Welcome. Let's get right to our first guest. Now, he is a returning guest, but it has been a while. Wayne Coates, Hamilton County Recorder. I want to welcome you back to the program, Wayne.
Thank you, Kyle. It's a pleasure to be back in Anderson.
And you sitting here would speak to you being reelected, correct?
I was fortunate. It was a touch and go there. You know, when you win by such a small margin the first time, at least this time it was about a 3 or 4% margin. So
wow,
it was more preferable. Yeah.
So as we said earlier, you have retained your title, but there was no wrestling involved, or you didn't have to fight. Well, I guess it was sometimes a fight.
It was very interesting. You know, most of the campaign, I guess, because we were forced to close during lunch because I've lost about 50% of my personnel over the last 4 years. So in order to make things work on the rotation, I had to close at least the intake and copy department, although the research department was still open. But we were closed during the lunch hour in order to give everybody lunch. And so my opponent was ringing my bell a lot. His commercial had this bell ringing and looking for service. And so it was kind of comical. And of course, after the campaign, my staff, they bought me one of those little bells. So now when I need somebody in my back office, I just hit the bell and they know I need something. So I think they're going to take my bell away.
Well, I mean, it's probably a lot more budget conscious than an expensive intercom system. So yet another feather in your cap.
Well, you know, it's a small office anyway, so actually I just leave my door open and I can shout for whoever I need, and they can hear me.
System.
Yeah. But I can pick up the phone and hit the intercom, though. Yes.
Good. How are you enjoying your second term?
Well, it's starting off a lot better than the first term. You know, my first term back in 2009 started in the January. I had to lay off 11 people. I haven't had to do that this year, although we have reduced our staff by over 50% over the last 4 years. We've been able to maintain without firing anybody. And of course, anytime you fire somebody, you have to worry about the separation cost and of course the unemployment insurance. So there is a cost savings there to the office that we don't have that.
Wow, people usually don't see it that way.
Well, when you're in management, and again, every dollar is very important. You know, we went from a $2.2 million budget to a $1.2 million budget.
Wow.
So $1 million in 4 years, yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yes, and we bring in $7 million. So, you know, the county's been very fortunate.
Well put.
We're a cash cow.
Well put. And one of your goals during your first term was to give researchers better internet access. How is that progressing?
Well, the internet is, well, it's been a little bit more problematic than I would have liked. Part of those cuts have cost me one IT person. So I have only one IT person to do software and hardware.
Yeah.
So any software development is a little bit longer getting there. But we have been able to what we do is in the morning we have go up to the engineer's office and we take our old plats, and what we end up doing is using their flatbed scanner and digitizing the old plats, and we've been putting those online. Previously we had put over 6,000 plats online, but now we have plats from previous to 2003 online. And actually, some of the earliest plats, I mean, we're talking about from the 1800s.
Wow.
We're digitizing those now. So we're trying to do that. But as far as getting the documents on there, now we have been able to redact over the 18 million images. So when people come into the office, that information now, as far as personal identifying information, as far as your social security number or bank account numbers, that has been blinded out. So if people do research now in the office, that's going to be blacked out. Now to get it onto the web, we are currently testing some copy annotating software. So if we put this information on the web, what's going to happen is that when it comes up, the document over it have a watermark that says ACRO copy, so people can't use it for fraudulent purposes.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
But we're testing that now.
And obviously, the redacted documents you have, that's what you said you're trying to share online in the redacted form as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of title companies. I mean, I have over like 105 examiners that use my facilities. But also we have people like up in Dayton, attorneys up in Dayton or in Northern Kentucky. They don't want to send people in to the office if they can do it in their office. So again, there's been some discussion as far as fee for access. But you really can't do that. I mean, they're public documents. So we're just trying to get them out there online, but be sure that they're copy protected, to be sure that they're not used for fraudulent purposes.
And you point out a nice service, and that you're saving people, hours and gas money and who knows what else by avoiding a trip, so they're able to run their business more efficiently.
Well, time is money. And again, I hear it a lot from the surveyors. And that's one of the reasons why we've been trying to get plats online. With plats, there's no social security numbers. And by, I think it's 149.45 of the Ohio Revised Code, it calls for the screening of the personal identifying information from the documents if you put them on the web. So we have to be sure that that's done. But also, the commissioners, in their infinite wisdom, they didn't give me any money to actually buy any software. And again, when we look back at how this year was going to start, they cut me over $400,000 as opposed to last year's budget. Actually, I was under $1 million. We were going to be closed on Friday, and the Wednesday before the Friday that I started to close, the commissioners had a meeting, and the industry kind of showed up and gave an hour and a half of testimony saying, this is economic development. We need to be open in order to do our jobs. Otherwise, you're going to have delayed closings, and of course, with interest rates going up, you want to be sure that your rate's going to be locked in. So again, they stepped up, and the commissioners just by a strike of the pen gave me enough to stay open another day. That was over $240,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not easy, huh?
Well, the other thing is that the employees, they would be losing 20% of revenue. So how many employees are you going to lose also? And again, when you go from 41 to 19, how many more do you want to lose? And then how are you going to rebuild that, actually that knowledge base? Because, you just don't come waltzing in and knowing a lot about registered land.
Yeah. Remind us what is involved or what's included in the plats.
The plats, those are anything to do with like subdivision plats. You come in with condominium plats. Townships, they when they do road improvements and stuff like that, or the engineers, they file those at the engineer's office, but also they record them at our office, and those plats are recordable. Actually, I'm working with the engineer's office now to do some backscanning of some of the engineers' plats so that they can convey that to us, because I just gave all 2 discs of our plats to the engineer for their use. So again, we're trying to what we call shared services. Engineer Hubbard and I, we have a very good rapport, and I've known him when I was mayor of Forest Park, and actually back before when I was Public Works chairman out there. So it's been a good relationship, but again, just trying to work together and get more information out onto the web. So again, people, especially engineers and surveyors, don't have to come into the office and travel downtown and pay for parking. It's getting quite expensive downtown now.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, $2 an hour.
I remember when it was $1 for forever. Now, so you've spoken every year you've been in. They've cut your budget. It's been a total of $1 million over 4 years. Now, pretty soon here, or almost any day, you're going to be receiving your 2014 budget. How do you expect to fare with that?
The other day, my finance director went up to a meeting with the budget people. They have a meeting with the department, and they kind of give out with their preliminary what they expect. I was kind of taken back, given last year's dynamics, that actually they only wanted to cut me $2,000 this next time.
Huh.
That's what I said. And that doesn't sound all that bad, but here's kind of the rub on that. And again, I go back to the Reagan era and David Stockdale when he said fuzzy math. This is really fuzzy. This last June, the commissioners finally approved a 3% raise increase for the employees. They haven't had one in 6 years, and believe me, they need it. Because I have people working part-time jobs. But the thing is that how can you take and hit my budget, say, okay, we're going to give a 3% salary increase, and again, when you have probably close to $1 million in employee cost compensation, you take 3%, so you're talking $27,000, $30,000. Okay, now you add another $2,000 to that. Now that's the actual cut, because they didn't give you an increase of another $30,000. They took another $2,000 and didn't allow for the increase they just gave you.
Well, so you just have to shuffle, and they're saying you have to increase this part of your budget, but we're not increasing your overall budget. We're actually going to shrink it down.
Yeah.
So now you're losing less budget for the things that we've been talking about, your online abilities, your software, your IT.
Another person.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, I don't think that we can do it. It's quite candidly, it's the most, it's very frustrating, but again, I ran for the frustration, so I can't have only myself to blame. And again, it's very interesting. I don't know how I understand, because I have been a mayor and been on council and been in the legislature, that, we have to meet budget. In all fairness, the county has cut over $60 million in the last several years out of the budget. But you can't cut your way to prosperity. At some point in time, you have to grow. Now, right now, my revenue is up over $700,000 over their initial projections as of this time last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can't understand where they're coming from and why they want another $2,000, because again, you're making money. So it's fuzzy. It's fuzzy.
Is this someone like high school sports, where like one sport can kind of pay for some of the other teams?
Well, I guess if you want to go with Title IX or something.
Yeah.
But no, it is a little frustrating. Their policy and priorities are just a little questionable. But I'm there every day, and I've run the operation. The commissioners, they're not there every day. They're there when they have to show up for their Monday and Wednesday meeting, and they're gone. It's a lot different than going as a policy walk and saying, okay, we're going to do this, and pretty much they just follow whatever the budget office says. But as far as the day-to-day operations, I've invited them down to come see, but I think that they don't understand the true operations of it. In order to do what we're doing right now, I have actually my back office doing mail, where my personal assistant and who's also my personnel person is also doing mail. My chief deputy, he's doing mail. We do a voluminous amount of mail, and we can get 3 to 5 tubs a day in. But the thing is, that people don't realize is that we get it from all the other states, as far as all these refis and stuff, and they have to be processed. And the thing is with that is that has to be open, it has to be recorded, because people will call in and say, why didn't you do this or why did you do that? And you have to have a record of it. And then if anything's wrong with that, that has to be mailed back with an explanation. And it's not processed as far as into our system, it's sent back. So, and there's a lot of that. Pretty much that's what my back office does, is take care of the outgoing part. But the incoming, it has to be processed and then taken like that. That's one of the things why we're trying to implement what we call the e-recording, so that the out-of-state banks can have a web portal they can send their stuff through, so we don't have to go through the mail system. And of course, when that happens, if there's a reason for rejection, you type it in like an email with a rejection and send it back, and they can correct it. So there's no stamp, no handling, just all right there. And actually, we're testing that right now. It's been this time last year when we first got final contract on that, but the system wasn't compatible with our system, and then there was a rewrite of the software. And again, remember, I'm down to one software person.
That's not where I work. We have a team of people, and that's not a fast
Oh,
process.
team.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we have IT people, and it still takes a long time
I got an IT
to get
person.
things through. Sure, they would love a team.
Oh, God. We used to have two,
Yeah,
but we're down to one.
I-team duo.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff you're saying addresses this, and you and I have broached the subject before, but we have a political climate or just a civic climate where people talk about excess in government and how everything the government spends is taxpayer money or it's revenue from taxpayers, so people are sensitive to that. Do you get a lot of questions about that sort of stewardship? And like I said, you've addressed some of it here, but how do you respond to folks who question, or just because you're involved in government, are you spending more money than you need, or how do you justify wanting more people? Because you've cut a lot, but you're saying we also need to grow. What is your response to questions like that?
Well, I guess actually, all honesty, Kyle, I haven't been asked that question.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll ask.
Because, quite candidly, I guess because we've been cutting.
Right.
So people haven't said, have you been misspending? Actually, what I hear is from our title examiners is saying, why is the equipment broke? Why aren't you fixing it?
Yeah.
I can't wait for only this one machine because it's the only one that works when somebody else is sitting there and I have my work to do. That's what I hear. So it's a little different dynamics, but I can respect the idea of being a fiscal conservative because that's what I am. And again, but I also know that you have to grow your economy. And again, if like when I'm in a situation, am I going to impede the situation where people aren't able to get to a closing by holding up a title examiner who can't get the work done? Because most of these examiners, they do preliminary work, and then right prior to the closing, they do an update, and they have to know exactly if there's been a lien filed to that date. And so they come in that morning, and of course, if you got a noon closing and you're there at 9, you don't want to be waiting around.
Right.
Okay. So I mean, that's what I hear. But I understand the being a very fiscal conservative and being a good steward of public money. I've been in government service close to 20 years now, and I cut my teeth out there in Forest Park, and it was a very, very small community. I started on the Beautification Commission, and in order to plant a tree, you were the one who had to go out and get donations and get a shovel and plant the tree. So I mean, you start from the roots up. But but again, when you start having the money to be able to do things, that doesn't mean that you should be a spendthrift on it. You need to be still frugal. So I think that people want an accountable government, but also people want the service of government because my office is probably one of the most important in Hamilton County because you won't be able to get a loan unless somebody does a title. So it's very important that we are good stewards of the records.
Even, fiscal conservatives, even most libertarians will say government does serve a purpose or some purposes, maybe not as many as we have now. So you would say your office and what you're dealing with is an example of where you're not saying that you necessarily grow the economy, but you're in a position where if you can't do your job right, you can actually hold back the growth that the economy is trying to initiate on its own.
That's right. That's exactly true. Because again, where does it start? Real estate. You're going to put another commercial building up? Where's it going to be? Unless you got air rights. But no, everything starts on the ground floor, and again, you have to go to. I used to be a builder, and I understand the dynamics of it. But the thing is, and again, being in real estate for many, many years, over 30 years, you look at back and you say, okay, what affects the industry, and how can you make it better? Now, when I came into office, again, my goal was to make more things accessible. And that I have been working on for the last 5 years. And I think that we're achieving some of those goals. Could they have happened quicker? Yes, but it takes money. And again, working within the fiscal constraints, that doesn't mean that I cannot do things. It just means that there may be a little slower getting there.
Awesome. Well, Wayne, we are all out of time, but I personally look forward to you coming back and just filling us in more. I've been intrigued by hearing the progress and what you're dealing with, and I know people like to know what's going on in the different government roles. So looking forward to that.
I'm always a pleasure coming back.
With us, Wayne Coates, Hamilton County Recorder. We'll be back with our next guest. Welcome back to Anderson Speaks. We're here with our next guest. With me now is Donna Lunick. Donna is the president and one of the founders of the Cat Adoption Team. Donna, thank you for coming on Anderson Speaks with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it is not just you. We have a sidekick.
Yes,
Here
this
with
is Paula.
you. Paula.
We'll get her out here shortly.
Is she asleep or is she just relaxing?
She's just relaxing.
Just chilling.
Yes, she's been chilling all day.
Good,
Very nice
good.
cat.
What'd you put in her water?
Nothing.
She's just behaved, well behaved.
Yes.
So what is CAT? Do you refer to it as CAT?
We do.
It's easier to say.
Yes, it is. Cat Adoption Team, CAT. We are a nonprofit, no-kill foster group for cats. We keep them in our homes until they find a home for themselves. And we help them with that by showcasing them at a couple local pet stores, which you can find on catadoptionteam.net. And we also fix these cats. We provide the services for the cats before they go out anywhere into a home. We also help underprivileged people with help with their cats, litter, food, vetting, so that they can keep their cats, so that they don't have to surrender them to a shelter. We're always on a waiting list, so we never have room, hardly ever. So they might be forced to put them somewhere that they could be killed. So giving them food and litter and shelter then basically provides us not to have to take them.
You guys, you stay busy because it seems like I think it was a relative who made a joke one time. Someone said they could get a free cat, and he goes, "Yeah, I can get a free dandelion in my yard too." Like cats just
Oh, yeah.
they're like rabbits; they just multiply.
Yes, you
so
can get a free cat, but there's
almost
nothing
anywhere.
free.
You're right.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
So how busy are you guys?
We're very busy. To keep us going as far as funding, we fundraise. We have a couple fundraisers a year that are pretty big. The Rusty Ball, we're at the Duke Energy Center. That's for like 150 beneficiaries.
Yeah.
We just happen to be one of them, which is also a nonprofit. It's the Spirit of Cincinnatus that puts it on for them. They play music all night. We get to sell tickets, make money off the tickets, sell our silent auction items, and that helps us through the year.
Wow.
We've got another fundraiser that's also for a nonprofit group. Our primary vet puts this on. It's called the Blue Cat. It's a variety show that's in northern Kentucky, and we get that, split it with another group, but we get proceeds from that to kind of get us going through the year.
Where can folks get information on when these occur?
Catadoptionteam.net.
.net. Okay,
Yes,
on the
under our
website.
events.
Okay. So we're talking about the explosive nature of cat population growth, and what's the best way to keep that in check?
Well, you can get cats fixed at a couple different places, clinics, that is low cost, $35 a cat. They're nonprofit facilities. You can also, if you can't afford the $35, call them. They can probably find free vouchers for you to get your cats fixed.
Wow.
So, and they even have shuttles available for both of the clinics where you could go to a location, put your cat on a shuttle, they take it, fix it, and bring it back to you. So there's really no excuse for you not getting your cats fixed.
Is it, you said there's sometimes vouchers, is there any sort of like issue that's growing, or is there a problem that we're having with just overpopulation, or is it
There's
just to
always
keep it where it is?
Always overpopulation. People just don't get their animals fixed. And there's really no reason, and that's why we're trying to promote to everyone, please get your animals fixed. We'll take them for you. We'll help you find vouchers. Anything we can do to make that happen. Kittens, all over the place. 6 months, a female can start going into heat.
Wow.
And they can have up to 3 litters a year. They have
Wow.
anywhere from 3 to 8 kittens in each of those litters. So if you can imagine, you can do the math on that, how many cats you've got to try to find homes for. There's not enough homes for these cats.
And not to be crude, but just to be straight to the point, the alternative
Yes.
is simply killing them.
Well, we don't do that,
Not
obviously.
you guys, but
there's open entry
overall,
shelters, and you have a need for the open entry shelters because there's nowhere else for these animals to go. But when they get full, they have no choice. It's not that they want to, but they have no choice. So why not make an effort? It's so easy. I don't
To
know.
stem the problem before we have to go to those sort of measures to deal
Absolutely.
with it. You said there's vouchers, there's places you can find.
I can give you the names. They're
Okay,
both
go ahead,
nonprofit.
go ahead.
One being OAR. It's Ohio Alley Cat Resource. It's off of Red Bank Road exit. Very easy to find. Let's see, what's their 871-0185 is their phone number. And the other one is UCAN Clinic. They do dogs and cats. They're both $35 for cats. Dogs, I think, are around $75. And UCAN is on 8th Street, downtown Cincinnati.
Okay.
So that's another good one to go to. And I believe their phone number is 721-7387. Like I said, you can call these places. If you can't afford to do it, they'll find you help.
I have to say, not to make light, but as long as Bob Barker has been calling for pets to be spayed and
Yes.
neutered, he's kind of a prophet.
Yes.
He's like was the voice in the wilderness saying,
Yes.
take care of it now
Yes.
before it's an issue. I had a question about some outdoor situations.
Yes, we really need help from farmers, people that might have homes with land. We have a lot of people asking us for feral cat help, which
Really?
is an unsocialized cat that's not going to be in your home. We turn these people down because we can't help them. We have nowhere to put them, because we keep the other ones in our homes. We would help them set up, acclimate these cats, provide the cages to do that, so these cats know that this is their home and this is where they're going to get fed and this is where their shelter comes from.
Are you talking even in the sense of, I have several family members who growing up, they always had a barn cat or two.
Right.
Like their job, that it wasn't a pet so much.
Mousers?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
It was a worker. It worked for them.
Yes.
It lived on the property and took care of their rodents and
Right.
stayed over there, and it didn't want anything to do with us.
And you can still feed them normal cat food. They'll still go after it. It's fun for them to do that. So it's natural for them to go be mousers. But we would fix the animal, vet the animal before we would even send it there. Because we can trap a feral cat and have it all done while it's under. And then take it to the farm, put it in a cage, acclimate it for a period of a few weeks, and then it knows this is my home. This is where I'm getting food. This is where I'm getting shelter. So, okay, I think maybe this is cool. I'll stay here. But we don't have that outlet, and we'd really like to have that outlet. If anybody ever comes to us, we would be grateful.
Awesome. We have something specific to talk about that deals with Paula.
Yes.
Can you explain what an FIV cat is?
I can. It is a feline immunodeficiency virus, which is an immune virus. Basically, she's not a lot different from any other cat, but if she gets a cold, it might take her longer to get over it. As long as you give her good nutrition, which you should any cat, and don't get her stressed out, she should be fine and live many, many long, happy years, same as any other cat. But the only thing is, if you have an aggressive cat that has FIV, they can transfer it to another cat. It goes through bites and breeding, but you're not going to be doing it through breeding because you're going to get your cat spayed or neutered. So basically, you can't transfer it to a dog or a human or any other species other from cat to cat. It's not through litter boxes, it's not through eating dishes or anything like that. And they're great cats.
So there is no, if you yourself or you have children, family members, there's absolutely no risk
No.
to any
No, not at all. Not
human
at all.
cats.
No, no, no.
That's what they think we
Would you
are.
like to
just
meet-
human.
would you
I
like
would
to
love
meet Paula?
As long as we're not disturbing her.
I don't
kind
think
of feel
so.
bad.
I think she might come out and say hi. Hi.
Hey there.
Hey there. Want to say hi?
So you said it affects their immune system
Yes.
so much. You said it's similar to the
It's
HIV.
like, it's like, this is kitty AIDS, basically. This is like the human AIDS, where if they come down with something, it's going to take them longer to get over it, the same as it would a human with FIV, or HIV, sorry. But, does she look any different than anything else?
No,
Very
she's pretty.
sweet. She's a little scared right now, but she's adorable. She purrs, she
So
plays,
they tend to be a little
eats.
more low key. You said just energy wise,
No.
or no?
Oh gosh, no. She still has the same amount of energy. She's just she's probably a couple years old, so she's not a kitten, so she's not nutty, but she still plays and does everything just like a normal cat would.
Good. So
And
again,
she's up for adoption.
so if you adopted a cat with FIV, what do you need to be aware of? That's how would you treat them or approach them differently than a normal cat?
Basically, for me, not any different than I would treat my normal cats, but for some, you just need to make sure that they have a good, nutritious diet. Good food, low stress level. Just take care of her the way you would any other pet.
And what do you mean by low stress level? What are some things that could
Well,
stress her?
you could be in a home with a lot of action or something that would make the cat nervous. She might
A
not
rock
like
band.
that.
They may not want to belong to a lead singer in a rock band.
Exactly. So something like that could stress her out. And, stress can make you sick, just like anybody
Mm-hmm.
else. And that would be something that you just need to take note of. So I think that these FIV cats are very misunderstood, and they need to open their eyes and adopt an FIV cat.
She seems
There's
very
plenty out
inquisitive.
there.
She's trying to
Yes,
take everything
I think I'm
in.
going to put her. I think I'm going to put her back in, and I think she'll be happy to go back in.
Now you've actually mentioned a couple venues or events.
Yes.
But where might we see the adoptable cats of the cat adoption team, or if someone's interested, how would they go about trying to adopt, either straight from some of the fosters or at the events?
Well, to find out where we would be, or the pet stores that our cats are located, or the events we may be having at these pet stores, you would go on our website, catadoptionteam.net, and you would find our events. We do require an application for our cats. We go through a process. We take references on our application. We call your vet. We discuss food with you on what you're going to feed them. If you have a landlord, we call the landlord. We just want to make sure that this is going to go right.
Good.
And we also try to match personalities. If you say, oh, I want a lap cat, okay, I know which cat would be good for that. Or, I really don't want a lap cat, I just want one that hangs around, or I want one that has lots of energy. So we can kind of fit whatever personality that person wants because they're in our homes and we know what their personalities are.
Like I told you, I have some friends that have cats, and I love them because they behave kind of like what I'm used to a dog behaving, as
Right.
opposed to the typical, stereotypical snobby cat that kind of
Yes.
like, oh, I don't feel like playing with you right now. I'll talk to you next week.
Right,
So
right.
I could say, hey, I'm looking for this sort of personality, and out of what you have, you're confident you can make.
Oh yeah,
good
we have dog-like
connections.
cats. We have cats that we know like dogs because I have a dog, so I can say, well, I know this one really likes my dog and would be great in a home with a dog. Now, there's others that really don't like my dog, so I would say better go to a home with no animals at all because that's that kind of cat.
Off the top of your head, I know there are breeds of dogs that don't shed versus shed. Are there breeds of cats that don't shed as much or may not shed? Or?
Probably so. As far as, I know a lot of people are allergic to cats, and dander is one of the main things that they're allergic to. A lot of the long hair cats are basically, you are less allergic to them. I know that sounds odd because you would think more hair, the more you'd be allergic, but that's not the case. The dander on them, and I think the way they clean and stuff, it prevents you from getting the dander like you would from maybe even a short hair cat.
Don't the long ones, they kind of just continue to grow instead of get to a certain point and fall out? Is that the difference, or?
I don't don't really know, to be honest with you on that. But there are hairless cats too, so.
Weird.
Yeah, and they feel like velvet. They look like skin, but when you touch them, it's like velvet.
It's like that the cat in Austin Powers.
Yes.
Mr. Bigglesworth.
Yes, exactly.
He wasn't too ugly. He's so ugly he was cute.
Little like an alien.
Now, when you adopt a cat, you've also mentioned some of this, but if we can kind of package it together. When you adopt a cat, what are all the services that are provided? What you're not just taking the cat home as is. What have you
Right.
guys offered, and what do you continue to offer?
As soon as we get the cat in, and for instance, if it's a kitten, you've got to wait till it's a certain weight and so forth. But all cats or kittens are spayed or neutered. We get their rabies shot. We get a shot called the FVRCP, which is commonly known as the distemper shot. We have them tested for FIV and leukemia, and we microchip them, and they're treated for fleas and worms and mites. So we work them over pretty good before we let them out of there.
So they're refurbished, like new.
Yes.
Have you had any issues where, despite the work that you guys do, or nothing's perfect, so you guys do a lot of work to make sure the place you're putting it's good, the match is good. Do you have issues that come up where they say they try to return, or they say it wasn't working out the way I thought, and how do you handle those?
We take them back. We always take our cats back, no matter. We don't care what the issue is. So that's a safety net they always have. They can bring them back to us. So try them out.
Okay.
And but the cat may act different in their home than they did in our home, and you just never know what's going to happen. So they may get stressed out in that home and not be a happy cat. So we take them back.
Now, what sort of support does the team need? People always need volunteers. Is that a need for you guys as well?
Oh, yes, very much so. We need volunteers to foster. That's the biggest one. And then we actually need people to clean cages at the stores that we have our cats. If they could take one day a week or one day every other week, that would be so helpful to us. And you can find that on catadoptionteam.net.
Now, we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to ask you an important question, and if you could just kind of lightly go over some of the high points. What are things that people need to consider when making a commitment to a pet?
Right. They need to make it a lifelong commitment for the cat's life. They need to know that it's going to be a part of their family. It's not disposable. They don't just have it until it's not cute anymore and chuck it. It's part of their family, and it's depending on them, the same as a kid would. So when changes happen in their life, they need to make a plan B, and they can't always depend on a no-kill shelter because they're not always available and they're full. So they need to really work on that. And also, for instance, if a person thinks about it, they should put something in their will. What if the cat outlives them? Where's it going to go? They need to make arrangements for that. You don't really think about those things, but there's been so many times somebody passed and we get their cat.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and too many people do it on a whim, or their child sees something and begs. And a goldfish is different at a fair than a cat or a dog.
They don't live as long.
Well, Donna, we are all out of time, but I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank
Paula,
you.
thank you. Sorry if we stressed you out, hon. But you'll have to come back, and if you have any other friends you can bring and update us on some things. But this has been Donna Lunick, president of the Cat Adoption Team. And if you haven't picked it up yet, you can go to catadoptionteam.net to find out more information. Donna and Paula need to go, but we're going to stay here, and we'll be right back with our next guest, so you don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You are still watching Anderson Speaks, and I'm still your host, Kyle Densler. But what we have for our final piece here is a little treat. With me, I have two guests, Lucy Moore and Jean Reckert. Welcome to the show, folks.
Thank you, Kyle.
Nice to have you on here. Now, Lucy, you are the treasurer, and Jean, you are the caller for the Beachmont Squares, which is a square dance club.
That's correct.
Hence the beautiful dress you have on.
Thank you.
How long has the Beachmont Squares been in existence, and how long have you two been involved?
Well, it's been in existence since 1961.
Wow.
In fact, they started down in Mount Washington, and they danced in people's basements. They danced in bowling alleys down in Mount Washington, and finally in 1961, they decided to make it a formal club, and they moved into the Mount Washington Presbyterian Church that's right there on Beachmont, and they called themselves the Beachmont Squares. Beachmont Squares because they're on Beachmont Avenue, I guess. And it's been around since 1961. We're 52 years old now.
Wow.
We passed the fifth. We're the second oldest club that's still dancing. Skirts and Shirts is the number one, and we're number two.
Wow. And how long have you been involved?
Over 30 years.
Wow. Very cool. Gene?
Dance, dance, dance.
I started calling for our Beachmont Square Dance Club 1990. So I've been there 23 years. I've been calling for 46 years overall.
Wow. Now, for someone who's just completely ignorant to square dancing, what is your function or your job as a caller?
To entertain the people. They have learned a series of calls, probably around 80 or 90, and it's my job to blend these calls into a dancing figures and let them have a good time.
So you're the kind of the master of ceremonies, the director, and
He's our guru.
Yeah.
So folks at home understand. So the dance, how, like, say you're dancing to a certain song for 4 or 5 minutes, the actual steps and the order they go in and how they flow, that's your call. The caller.
That's my responsibility, for one call to blend into the next call, into a dance.
How do you stay humble with all that power, Gene? That sounds pretty exciting.
Well, it's easy to stay humble.
Yeah, we let him know all the time. They say blame all the mistakes on the caller when we make mistakes.
Well, oh, I like that.
And we do.
I like that. It's like, you mumbled. You didn't give us enough time. So I assume you enjoy calling.
Oh, I do, sure.
How much do you dance yourself?
Well, I get to do a little bit. Sometimes when I'm doing a weekend with several other callers, I get to dance when they're calling. But I don't get to dance much as I'd like to.
So I'm curious, do people become callers because they're really good dancers, or do people get teased, be like, oh, you have to talk because you have 2 left feet?
No, no. I think most callers have developed into pretty good dancers before they start calling. I started calling because people would come to me and ask me, how do you do this certain figure? Would you help us teach us this certain figure? So I got into calling that way.
Wow. Have you ever been involved in a dance or an event where maybe the caller wasn't all that good? Does it affect, or have you been in a situation where the ability of the caller has kind of dampened or affected in a negative way the dance?
I think so, yes. I mean, some callers, every caller has different ways of putting things, and then there are other callers that are very good singers and can just make the floor feel so good, you know, and so the caller does make the dance. I mean, he's the one that, or she, we have some women callers also, they make the dance enjoyable or a chore.
Let me tell you, I didn't get up to where we got to Anderson.
Oh, yes.
In 1990, we'd already had 2 other callers who are now deceased. We had Johnny Davis and we had Dick Frecking. And in 1990, the club moved up to Anderson, to the senior center, and we got Gene as our caller, and he has been with us
23 years.
23 years,
Wow.
which is the longest, longer than either of the other 2 callers.
Wow.
And we've really only had 3 long-term callers since 1961.
Wow.
We had one caller for just 1 year. So
So you guys currently in the senior center still?
we are currently in Anderson Senior Center on Beachmont Avenue, and it's real close to, it's between Applebee's, and the sheriff and the fire department are right there in front of us, and we're behind them in the senior center, and they're tearing down the Blockbusters. That big building is a shell, or it's gone.
That old
They're building
dinosaur of a
something new
business.
there. Yeah, and we're behind that. So it's a lot of times people say, "Where are you on Beachmont?" Well, we're right
kinda
there.
hidden. You don't need a big
But, yeah.
billboard or flashing
And our
sign.
room is nice. It's got a wood floor, and yes, we do need a big flashing sign. We
Now,
do.
I have been
Good idea.
to square dancing practices and events and clogging events with my grandparents when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a majority of senior citizens. And I know some people hear the word senior center and they picture a group of kind of
I know.
cantankerous, lonely people sitting around.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've been to those events. It is very, very lively. Do people ever come just to enjoy, just to watch, or do more people need to know about it so they can do that?
Well, that's what I want, is the people in Anderson Township to dance. We have people coming from Bethel. We have people coming from
Wow.
Kentucky. But we don't have that many right from Anderson Township. So
Right here in their
that's
backyard.
my message here, is that Anderson Township, we want you. We really want dancers from right here.
So Lucy is sure that there are a lot more squares here in Anderson just waiting to be discovered.
I think so. I think they're here.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit real quick about your all's connection with Anderson Township, and then I want to get into specifically what kind of dancing you guys do. So you said you don't live in the area, but you have some connections, but you've grown up here.
I grew up here. My dad got to teaching at Anderson. He was in the junior high there, 8th grade, I think it was, and I was in 2nd grade. So I moved here when I was in 2nd grade and went through Anderson and then graduated from Withrow,
Okay.
because by that time I'd moved to Mount Washington. And then I guess the biggest tie-in, and I'm out in Claremont County now, but I'm in Claremont County, but I dance in Anderson. My father, Mr. Smalley, wrote the history of Anderson Township. He wrote the little books that we're still using, and so they founded the Historical Society,
Cool.
which I'm very active in now and really
Very cool.
enjoy it. So that's my tie-in.
Gene, where are you located now?
I live in Cold Spring, Kentucky,
Oh, okay.
and not very far from here.
Do you feel like living in Kentucky gives you more of that authentic accent and that makes the calling even cooler?
I make a joke about that sometimes, being over here and put my shoes on and so forth, you know. But,
I'm coming to Cincinnati. I got to put my shoes on.
yeah.
So how did you get connected? How does someone from Cold Springs, Kentucky, end up at the Beachmont Senior Center?
Oh, well, they were looking for a caller. They had tried out various callers, and I was one of them that tried out. I mean, called there a time, and they called me up and asked me if I would consider being their regular caller. I call for 5 other clubs in the Cincinnati area.
Wow. Well, as a caller, it seems like you carry a little bit of gravitas in the area.
Well,
You've got a little notoriety.
Oh, he does.
I get asked a lot of questions sometimes about various things. Yeah.
And that's cool to hear. People come to you and say, can you help? And obviously
Right.
you're a teacher.
Yes.
That you
Well,
enjoy
that's
that.
primarily what you are. You're a teacher.
Very cool. I can appreciate that. All right, so let's get into some specifics here. As far as the calling and dancing that you guys teach, where are some of the different styles that people can get into? Is there like a Western versus a hoedown, or?
We do what is sometimes referred to as the Western style, or modern square dancing. There is the traditional square dancing, or as some people in this particular area call hoedown.
Okay.
But the difference is in modern square dancing, around the end of World War II, amplification became in, and records, and so we didn't need bands, and we didn't need a caller that would have to holler his lungs out. You know, we had microphones and speakers, and so they began calling, or individual calls. Probably the difference is in the traditional, you had what we call visiting couples, where couple one would go over and dance a while with couple 2, and then they'd go to dance with 3, and then with 4, and then they'd be back home, and then 2 would go to 3, 4, and around like that. But in the modern dancing, as I say, that nobody knows what I'm going to call. They just know how to do the calls, and we have all 8 people dancing all the time.
So more people engaged throughout
Yes.
the time.
And I think the comparison would be maybe if you play cards, if you play just regular cards, you know, like hearts or something like that, that would be traditional. Playing bridge would be like doing the modern dancing.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Is that really the only difference? Is in that engagement or that form, or are there steps that are different kind of music that's used?
Steps, no, you're going to be, now some people in the traditional might do a little clogging step with it in certain areas. They do
My
that.
area of expertise.
Your
But
area, right.
but in the modern dancing, you really don't do that. You slide your foot. You really should be properly. You should be up on sort of leaning forward on the balls of your feet, and each beat of music is a step.
Okay.
So in order to say a do-si-do would require 8 steps of music to do, or eight steps or 8 beats of music to do.
Okay. Literally
And
2
each-
measures of 4/4 just
And
right
each,
together.
most of our dancing is in 2/4 time.
Okay.
There is a little 4/4 time and occasionally a 6/8 time, but most of it is 2/4.
Very interesting. Now I'm a music guy, so I like hearing some
Okay.
of that. So you said you're looking just to let people know about this opportunity. What are the benefits that you have found? Because you have, I'm looking at your badges here. You have about 3 feet of
Yes.
badges, and so you've been doing this for a long time. What are the benefits that you've gained, and what are some of the? Obviously, being active is going to be good for people's health, but what are some of the benefits you want to
Yes.
share?
Well, it's fun. That's all I can say. It's lots and lots of benefits. It's enjoyable. You meet people that become your friends, and they're your friends for a long time. They're wonderful people. It's exercise. We've had people lose weight dancing. It's amazing, but it's good. It's aerobic. You actually do work up an aerobic. You perspire.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
You can when you dance fast. It's great. And to compensate for that, we bring food. We have all kinds of neat things on our food table. Beachmont Squares is known for their good food
We
table.
should have led with that.
Yes,
Beachmont
we should
Squares
have.
has food.
Food, yes.
That should have been the first thing we
We
said.
bring desserts, and we surely do. It's inexpensive as far as an evening of fun, and there's no drinking. You do not drink alcohol when you
Can't do it.
dance. You just can't.
Oh no,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't
I would say
dance.
drinking alcohol and then kind of dancing
Yeah.
in squares or spinning.
It doesn't
don't
work,
mix.
and I know that. I witnessed that, so I know that's true. Yeah,
I'd like
you got
to
to stay
add
in
something to
squares.
that too.
Yeah.
The mental things in
Mental
square dancing, the
stimulation,
mental
yes,
capacity.
yes, I didn't
Because
get to
as
that,
we get
right.
older, we don't use our brain like we should, and in square dancing you must. You have
Yes,
to.
yes, you
And
have to.
so I always say that the essential things in life are physical, mental, social, and spiritual. And certainly in exercising and in the dancing, you will dance maybe 5 miles in an
Wow.
evening of dancing and not even
Wow.
know it because we're not
don't
going that
know
fast or that hard. Secondly is mental, because you have to listen to the caller constantly
Listen
because
to
he's
the
changing
caller.
things all the time.
Right.
And so, and you have to learn these steps. And third, social is just every time you go to a dance, there's going to be a lot of people. And I'd like to also mention at this point that you can go anywhere in the world once you learn this dance. Dancing in Japan, square dancing in Japan is more popular than it is in the United States now.
Wow.
But you can go anywhere in the world. You can go anywhere in the United States and say, I'm a square dancer, and they'll be calling the same things, the same figures.
That's cool. Very cool.
It's all in English. It's wonderful.
cool.
I've danced on Fountain Square on those cobblestones or the bricks with a Japanese caller. And, yeah, it's. I wanted to say a couple other things too. I have 2 artificial knees,
Wow.
which I've had them for 9 years now, and dancing is a wonderful. It's great. It keeps my knees working. So people say, "Oh, I can't do it because I think my knees are going bad." It helps.
Maybe this is exactly
It
what
helps
you
when
need.
you have the surgery and then you keep limber. So
When you
it
mentioned
was-
before the show
yeah.
being involved in World War II. People from your generation, we don't view you guys as lazy or sedentary. You guys have been through a lot. But like you said, at your age, it's important to remember to stay active and mentally and physically. I had a professor who was only in his 60s, but every morning he did these specific brain teasers, and he says, I don't really enjoy them, but I do it to stay sharp. I do it to get my mental juices flowing, and I can only imagine all the different ways people are stimulated at
This
square
is
dancing.
a great way. This is a great way.
Yeah, this is a great way.
Yes,
I
it
make
really
a
is.
point to keep my mind sharp, is memorizing things, just for the sake of, don't mean anything, but just to keep my mind sharp.
It's like exercising muscles.
Like
That's
he
right.
calls teacup chain. We have to remember what teacup chain is, or load the boat. And it's a whole
You
set
have
of
to know
steps.
the series
not just
of how to do
one.
it.
Wow.
And we keep all that up here. And it's kind of like, I like to photograph the choreography in my head. And that helps a lot, for me anyway, to remember all these patterns. And when he says, do this, do that, you know, I
Are
kinda know what
are
he's
you
doing.
able to kind of like up the degree of difficulty and kind of challenge them and
Yes,
push them?
yes.
That's very cool.
It depends on whatever group I'm going to call for. I call out a little bit. If I don't know the group,
Right.
I'll call out some easier things and then see how they do, and then maybe add a little bit, or I can add or subtract depending on the group. You know.
Wow. Now, no one's perfect, so do you ever have folks mess up, and what's it like? Do you guys have some fun with
Oh,
that? or
sure.
Oh, yes, we do.
Any hurt toes or hurt feelings, or everyone kind of just keeps
I don't
going
think
along?
so.
No major collisions or any.
Well, I've had one. Yeah, I got shoved down
Oh, really?
at a dance not too long ago. Yeah, it hurts. But you just pick up and go on. The caller didn't even stop the dance.
It's
I just
hardcore.
went on. Another
There you
lady
go.
came in, and I was nursing my knee. And right, and the dance went on. Afterwards, he said, "Were you hurt? Were you down on the floor?" And I said, "Uh-huh." But he said, "I didn't even realize it."
Full contact
We
square
just moved
dancing.
right
I have
on.
not heard of that.
Yeah, right. That
we
doesn't
don't
happen very
advertise
often. No, that doesn't happen very often.
This is going to surprise you guys because it surprised me, but we only have a couple minutes left.
Really?
Yeah, we have been engaged and I've
Oh, we
enjoyed
got to
this.
talk about our class.
Yeah, talk about classes real quick,
Yes.
and then where people can go for information.
Okay. Well, first of all, we meet up there. We meet on Thursdays. Thursday is our day. When we have class, which will start October 3rd. Right now, we're finishing up. Our class of this year is graduating this week. They come in at 7, dance from 7 till 9. And then on the second and fourth Thursdays, when the club comes in, the dancers, then they have class from 7 to 8. And then they can stay. And maybe when they get good enough, they can dance the first step. He'll have them included in it.
I was going to ask
And then we dance from 8 till 10.
about
the
skill
club
level.
does.
Well, how do you guys stay up that late? Aren't you guys supposed to go to bed at like 6 or something?
Oh,
You guys are up late having fun.
heavens, no,
love it.
heavens.
No stereotypes here. So a skill
No,
level.
no.
Anybody can come in. They're going to find a place to start. They
Oh,
could be.
sure.
What if they've never square danced
Well,
before?
the first lesson is always free.
Okay.
And we do the first 3 classes are the same. They just
Okay.
repeat. Jean will do that, and then at the end of the 3rd lesson, then they start moving on.
Very cool.
But people come in, and that's what we want. August 3rd, we want a big class of people.
Can they go to the senior center? Do you guys have a website or anything to get more information?
Well, we have phone numbers to call, and we put out signs on Clough, a few signs on Clough,
Okay.
and I put one out at Nagle and State. We have them on Beachmonts, hopefully. Well, they'll let us in the businesses. And we're hoping to get something in the newspaper about it, too.
Awesome.
But we'll have phone numbers out.
We'll have that up for you guys. So we can tell. Unfortunately,
I think there's a website with the Federation, isn't
Well,
there?
we never even got into that. There's a federation
we
over
need to
all
have
the
you guys
places
back.
in
We have you guys back. We got
Cincinnati.
more stuff to
Yes,
talk about. and
there's
we can have more
clubs
fun with this.
everywhere. But
we are all out of time. I got to wrap this up. This has been Lucy
Really?
Moore
Oh.
and Jean Record with Beachmont Squares Square Dancing Club. I want to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for dressing
Thank
up so
you.
pretty for us.
oh,
Thank you,
you.
Kyle.
Thank you, sir. And this concludes for this September edition. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next month here on Anderson Community Television. Until then, I'm Kyle Densler. Have a good one, Anderson.